All right, so hi everyone. I hope you're enjoying Citro Hacks right now. It's been super fun so far, and the entire day is planned with many more workshops, so I hope you all enjoy that. So just a little bit, all right, there we go. Just a little background, this was supposed to be an intro to data science workshop, but the initial software I was supposed to use crashed. I have another workshop for intro to cybersecurity using Python so far, and I will share the data science and the cybersecurity slides as well. So hopefully after that, we can get the best of both worlds. So, all right, so this workshop is basically an introduction to cybersecurity using Python. So I'll introduce a few concepts in cybersecurity, cryptography, and then a way in Python of how we can tie everything together. So first of all, a little bit about me. My name is Shagun Khare. I am a strong advocate for diversity and technology, and I'm also the director of tech at Athena by Women in STEM. So I'm super excited and honored to be here, and I hope everyone is enjoying their day so far. All right, so just an overview of the workshop that we have today. So first of all, I'll go over a little bit about what cybersecurity really is, and then I'll tie in the concept of cryptography. And then we're going to be talking about a few important principles that involve mathematics and coding that can basically lead to cybersecurity as well. And then if we have some time, I have a small Kahoot to review the main concepts. And then I'll be talking about the main project, which we will be creating a Caesar cipher using Python. So first of all, if anyone has a few ideas, you can put them in the chat or unmute. What do you guys think cybersecurity is exactly? Or silence works too. Anyway, so cybersecurity, the jumbo definition is basically that cybersecurity is the protection of computer systems from theft of damage to basically their hardware, software, or electronic data. So it basically encompasses everything from the actual hardware of the system to the viruses or malware that could affect the actual software of the system, which is more common than the hardware, but overall cybersecurity encompasses everything that technically involves anything with your device. So just a little fact, cybersecurity actually is super common, especially now with COVID-19's effect wearing off, I guess you could say. But there's actually a cyber attack every 39 seconds. So it's really important, especially there's some factors you can't control, like how a hacker can actually go into your system, but there's more factors as users that we can control, which include who you share your password with, how many tabs you have open, or even how digitally aware you actually are. And those factors are really important so you can keep your device and your information as secure as possible, and you're not a victim in the end. So yeah, one of the really biggest parts of cybersecurity and why it's such a big thing now is because top companies have been affected by viruses and different hackers in many different approaches. So the top three, well, not in order, but the biggest data breach that has ever occurred was the Yahoo one. So in 2013, Yahoo revealed that over 3 billion user accounts had been hacked, which revealed the user's password as security questions. And those were compromised as well. So usually when these hackers basically they got in contact with the passwords of each of the accounts as well. So that actually caused a lot of damage to the user's information and different types of accounts that you can associate with your Yahoo email. Another really important one was the First American Financial Corporation data breach, which basically occurred in May of 2019, where the First American Financial Corporation leaked 885 million user accounts, which included bank accounts, social security numbers, and other transactions. So the ones that are definitely involving banks are more and more risky than, just your email account, because here the hackers have a larger amount to basically deposit your money, get access to your bank account, which actually occurs a lot. I have a few stories where, for example, my aunt, she got like a call from this random person about her bank account, and basically they asked her for her account over the phone, which they said they would make a wire transfer for. But thankfully, she knew that the first of all the number was not secure, and then no one would actually make you give your social security number or your bank account information over your phone. So again, it's important that you are aware of who's asking you for information and how they're asking you for their information. And finally, in April 2019, Facebook actually also got hacked because the UpGuard cyber risk reported that over 540 million accounts had been recorded based on giving information about their likes, comments, reactions, and account holdings. So overall, you can see that it's really, I guess, scary that you can see how much information a hacker could get from your account based upon all these different kinds of factors. So yeah, another really important fact that I thought was really interesting was that in all of these different types of big data breaches with Yahoo and Facebook and even Uber, which happened a few years ago, these companies don't reveal this information right away. With the Yahoo case, actually, this occurred, I guess you could say, in the end of 2013 to the beginning of 2014. But the company actually revealed that this was like a major event in mid of 2014. So again, it's mainly your information, your accounts. The companies in the end only are affected by the major losses. So you really want to be careful about what you're spreading online. All right. So what are the types of hackers? So a lot of people, you're thinking about a hacker in a dark room with, with basically a hood over themselves, and they're trying to go into like the biggest government systems. But there's actually 3 different types of hackers that we commonly associate with today. So first of all are the white hat hackers, and they're basically hired to test the security of the system. They have permission to do it. So these guys, you could say, are basically the good guys. Usually they're enforced by the government or enforced by some commercial company in order to ensure that their systems are safe, secure, and obviously able to function and protecting their users. The next ones are the gray hat hackers. So these guys are literally what you call the middle ground. They don't have any, or they're not hired to have any criminal motives, but if once they're starting to exploit the system to check for any defects or if they're good, they may break some laws. But overall, the white hat hackers and gray hat hackers, they overlap because some laws might be broken in order to ensure the protectiveness of that organization or company. And finally, we have the black hat hackers, who are the ones that movies highlight or something, which goes with hackers that do have a criminal intent and who basically are looking to exploit your system in order to steal some kind of information or to get their hands on something which could either give them a benefit or some kind of monetary value. All right, so there are several types of cyber attacks and cyber events, and the main part are malwares as well. So there's actually 3 different types of malwares that we associate with today, although there's like several different types of subcategories. So the first of which are viruses. So viruses grow by inserting a copy of itself into another program, and the virus spreads from one computer to another, leaving infections as they travel. So I guess if you've taken biology before, it's kind of like that definition where it just continues to leave marks of itself until the entire computer is infected. The next of which are Trojans. So Trojans are harmful pieces of software that look real, but they're known to create backdoors to give malicious users access to the system. So this typically appears in, it has to be direct face to or direct user interaction. So if you see, a pop-up or an email that is not secure and you click on it, this basically allows that Trojan to operate, and this will allow that certain piece of software to find a loophole in your system, and then that's how they are able to basically take over your computer software. So again, it's really important to make sure that you're clicking on the secure links and the ones that are actually, not supposed to be fake. And the last of which are worms. So worms are similar to viruses, only that worms can replicate functional copies of themselves and cause the same damage. And the thing about worms is that they are standalone software that did not require a host program to spread. So unlike viruses, in biology, you need like a host body or something, but viruses, they need like that host program in order to start operating and take over the cell. However, with worms, worms are itself its own software, so they can create potentially much more damage than a virus. All right, so there's also several types of different cyber attacks which occur. The three most important ones, or three, I guess you could say, that are most occurring, although there are definitely more that have been introduced, especially with COVID-19. So the first one is the man-in-the-middle attack. So these attacks occur when the hackers insert themselves in a two-party transaction where they first disrupt the traffic in order to filter and steal information. And these attacks often occur due to unsecured public Wi-Fi or if a malware breached a device. So I guess you could say that in airports or places with like free public guest Wi-Fi where a lot of people are cluttered on the same device, what happens is that another third-party source can use that large and weak Wi-Fi to their advantage, where they basically stop it from working or basically insert their own code in it, which causes an additional weakness in that software, which allows the hackers to basically steal any information from any users that are using that Wi-Fi. Another one are phishing attacks. You might have heard of phishing attacks too. They're getting definitely more prominent, precisely because you don't need to have any additional software knowledge to be able to be, very prominent in phishing. But phishing is a practice of sending fraudulent communications over email, telephone, or text in order for hackers to steal sensitive data such as credit card or login information. So another story which I have is this time my cousin was actually the victim, in which he was planning to go camping. But basically he got a call from one of the company executive, or the so-called company executive, where he stated that a wire transfer was needed in order to basically complete their transaction. So a wire transfer is basically where he gave his information over the phone in order for the transaction to occur. So he did receive an automatic confirmation on his phone that stated that, the transaction occurred. However, on the day of the camping trip, he was given an address to pick up the RV that he rented in order to do the camping trip. And then he was driving, and he came to like a complete desolate site. So that clearly showed that, first of all, he was tricked in the wire transfer, and second of all, there was no RV company in the first place. So although the monetary loss was definitely quite a lot, he got half the money back by getting some kind of transaction appealed. But in the end of the story, he was not as cautious as he should have been, because he knew that a wire transfer online is always risky, especially if they're asking you for more information that's required. So phishing attacks are definitely occurring much more, especially any person, any third-party source can call you and confirm that they're not allies, or they're part of this type of act, this company or organization, and they're typically going to ask you for that information over some kind of device or phone or email, which you should know that's not as secure. And the last one is an SQL injection. So this one is not as prominent as the other two anymore, because SQL, or the structured query language, is definitely a language that other languages are taking precedence over. But this could honestly occur with Python or Java or any type of language that users could take advantage of if there's a lot of users using that specific software. So an SQL injection is basically when an attacker inserts malicious code into a server that uses the language and that forces the server to reveal information they normally wouldn't. So this usually occurs in those extremely unsecure sites, which are not as secure. So if you see random pop-ups, if you see search boxes that are, the entire website is not as secure as, you would assume it to be, that's typically one of those websites in which a hacker is trying to take advantage of and find those backdoors or those loopholes where they can insert their own code in order to overrun the software itself. All right, so that is basically an overview of the main types of cyber attacks, the main types of malwares you can come across, and the types of hackers that are continuously doing different jobs in order to basically keep the industry both in the commercial sectors, the government sectors, and honestly your own personal information safe. So a type of concept that is really aligned with cybersecurity is cryptography. So in the event of cybersecurity is honestly, there's a lot of intersections with cybersecurity and cryptography, where the main aspects are cybersecurity uses cryptography concepts and theorems in order to create algorithms that can ensure of certain software or companies' security. So the main four aspects of cryptography are basically its security, how confidential it is, how protected their system is, and finally, communication is super important because in the world of cybersecurity and cryptography, communication should only occur from a sender to a receiver. There shouldn't be any middleman attacks or middle source that is trying to hijack the information. So for the man in the middle, can it be done by transfer? I don't understand your question completely, but yeah, you basically a man in the middle attack, it can be done if you're transferring some kind of information or if there's basically a lot of users using that specific server. All right, so the main two topics of cybersecurity revolve around encryption and decryption. So encryption is a process in which you transfer the original information into an unrecognizable form. And often encryption is done by key algorithms, so the data is made from stealing. So we're gonna hear this word key a lot. Key is basically that specific number, that specific algorithm that you use in order to both encrypt that plain text into a ciphertext or to decrypt it. So encryption, I'm pretty sure many of you guys have used it before, if you heard it before, in which you see like an unscramblement activity where you see a bunch of letters or symbols mixed up, and then it's often your task to basically decrypt in order to get it back to its original message, which leads into the concept of decryption, where decryption is a process of converting encoded data into a form that's readable. So this method is performed by using the same keys that are used in encryption. So you can see that in this relative word, we have key here. So although you have to use that specific key to both encrypt and decrypt that message, it's really important to know that this key is not just one algorithm, it's not just one number. It's usually a series of combinations and different types of tools that you're going to have to use in order to make sure that specific text is as secure as possible. So I'll stop. I should have done this in the last slide, but I'll stop if you guys have any specific questions about anything we've covered so far, or if you guys have experienced some type of similar cyber attacks or known people, or if you have some good memories with encryption or decryption. All right, if there are no questions, then I can continue forward and I will stop later on for those. All right, so one of the main principles that has been created for a long time is Krochhoffs Principle, which was created, I believe, in the late 1800s, but still continues to evolve and develop today. So Krochhoffs Principle basically states that a cryptographic system should be secure even if everything about the system except the key is public knowledge. So this iterates kind of what we were talking before, in which you actually are allowed to have the ciphertext, the encoded message, and all that information can be public, as long as that key or that specific algorithm that you use is kept personal to only the sender or the receiver, so they know how to access that information. Could you say that decryption goes into reverse engineering? Yeah, you actually can. Decryption and reverse engineering. You could see that engineering has a lot of intersection with cybersecurity. So especially when you are trying to, decrypt or take a specific message, take a specific segment of code and revert it back to its original format, or revert it back into a message that you need to understand, that could definitely be aligned. Okay, so with the concept of Krochhoffs Principle, it's actually applied in all types of encryption and decryption algorithms, and they're constantly being used to make sure that its security is heightened. So the most important aspect is to know that there's two different types of sectors which use this algorithm in a different way. So we have the government sectors and we have the commercial sectors. When you decrypt something, is it done manually or are there decryption programs? Yeah, so they're actually done, before you could say they were done manually, but nowadays, especially with different types of algorithms, such as Caesar ciphers, even different types of languages, you could say, have different types of decryption algorithms, which are basically used more in practice, especially with different softwares and different ranges of complexity. So those are used in order to decrypt a message. So yeah, with the government and commercial sectors are basically what we see today with different types of companies such as Yahoo, Facebook, Uber, who have thousands and billions of users who basically use their software. And by ensuring that trust between the user and the company, Krochhoffs Principle is used in order to ensure that literally everything besides that specific algorithm, that specific connection between that user and that company is secure, but everything else, such as your username, your picture, that's all public. However, in government sectors, such as different types of intelligence agencies between countries, those are kept highly, highly secure. And I guess you could say why, because it's definitely important to keep at a national security level all the information about a specific bank, a specific trust, a specific agreement very secure. So in those government sectors, you're gonna notice that maybe they actually keep both the ciphertext, the encrypted text, all private, just so that specific text is not leaked to the general public or to any types of enemies who could still potentially use those algorithms in order to decrypt that message. And we have another thing in the chat. Are some algorithms one size fits all? Can people decrypt a message using a public algorithm? That's a really good question. We are actually going to talk about that in the next slide exactly. So I'll hold off to that just until the next slide. But that's a really good question. One application, which basically Krochhoffs Principle was used in, was if you watch the movie, I think it was in World War II, where basically the Germans were using a different type of were using this code in order to communicate with each other, and the U.S. agency actually, they got a hold of that specific ciphertext and they were able to decrypt that message. So that was a super cool real life application of how cybersecurity was used in the military workforce back then, and how it continues to evolve in both the government, military, and commercial sectors today. I think so. It's called a one-time pad. I will look into that. All right. Symmetric encryption. All right. So this kind of goes into the question Sarah asked about if algorithms are one size fits all. So I will read your question in a minute. So symmetric encryption is a type of encryption in which the sender and receiver uses a separate instance of the same key in order to encrypt and decrypt the message. So since this algorithm is public, anyone can have access to it, making that key that vital link to securing that information. So although symmetric encryption is much faster, the key distribution and the key management problem are often two different disadvantages to the system. So basically what this means is that this algorithm or this specific text is public and made known to the public. However, that specific algorithm or that specific key is left unknown to the public. So if you receive an email for someone, the only link between that your email and the sender's email is a specific algorithm or key that we know is kept secure. So you won't be able to figure out the algorithm, which is the specific key that's kept private, but this is made known to the public in order for them to be able to see everything else besides that specific algorithm that's used to decrypt it. So what they mean by key distribution and key management is that since that key is kept private, if you're trying to, for example, send a specific email to a wide range of people, right? So if I'm sending it to 3 different people, then I will need to generate 3 different types of keys in order to ensure that my information to that sender's information is kept secure. So technically that does take a faster amount of time, especially if you're sending it to one person, but that distribution of different keys to different senders, that does cause a leak in the progress, especially if you're trying to mass email or mass send some vital information to. So you're going to see a lot of commercial sectors do use this in order for faster automation, but government sectors have symmetric encryption on a very risky format, because if any information gets leaked, then it is all on them, you could say. The machine is the engine. Yeah, okay. I did not know that. That is super cool. Thank you for letting me know. And the next question we have is, does Bitcoin use cybersecurity? So Bitcoin, I would say I'm not that knowledgeable in that aspect, but cybersecurity, blockchain, and cryptocurrency, they're all highly interconnected. And Bitcoin does use parts of blockchain and cryptocurrency that basically enable it to be as popular and successful as it is. So in the meantime, I will research that on how exactly it's related, but they're definitely all interconnected. And Bitcoin's algorithms for cybersecurity, they are definitely much more ranging in complexity than you could say a specific commercial email factor or around something like that. And the next type of encryption algorithm that we're going to be focusing on is asymmetric encryption. So asymmetric encryption is where the sender uses a public key to encrypt the message, whereas the receiver uses a private key to decrypt the message. And although both keys are mathematically related, the private key is still not able to be calculated, especially by any third-party external source. And although this method is slower, it upholds the security principles of authenticity. So this is kind of what we were talking about before, of whether a specific key or an algorithm can be known to the public. And in the case of asymmetric encryption, it actually can. So this is a sector in which both the public and the private keys are separate. So the public key is, you can't go backwards with that, is basically what asymmetric encryption is. So anyone has access to that public key in which they're able to use, in which they're able to understand how the specific text was encrypted. However, only that receiver of that message has access to that private key in which they can understand how to decrypt that message. So in this method, the algorithms for encrypting and decrypting are different, and they're often done in a way in which, as its definition said, in which it's mathematically related. But since you don't know that private key, a third-party source cannot get access to how to connect that public key to the private key. So as the name holds, asymmetric encryption is definitely much better if you're sending it to a specific, limited group of people, because having two different instances of that key causes a slower range in the basically the whole network traffic, but it is not advisable for mass email, which is why asymmetric encryption is used more towards government sectors, in which they're actually able to keep a hold of that private key sector and sneakily release that public key. So it causes confusion between that entire system. All right, so applications in real life. So there's countless applications of cybersecurity in real life and cryptography, and you all just mentioned a few with Bitcoin. So one of the most important parts are digital signatures, so especially now with top companies such as DocuSign and DocHub, digital signatures are a big important part, especially in different types of trust companies and banks. So digital signature of a document is a piece of information based on both the document and the signer's private key. And it's typically created through the use of a hash function or a private signing function. And this is an example of asymmetric encryption, in which that sender has access to that private key, which keeps their digital signature safe. The next part, where we briefly talked about before, were emails. So when an email is sent, it's encrypted by a computer using a public key, where the contents of the email are scrambled, but only that person with that matching private key has the ability to decrypt that email, which is super cool, because you can see that anyone who has access to your email can't, any third-party source, or should I say, has access to your email, cannot directly access your information unless if their private key aligns with that message. That's why it's really important not to share your passwords with anyone who you might not be able to trust. The third is electronic money. So this, I guess you could say, is where Bitcoin is sort of related, where a lot of different algorithms are used to protect conventional transaction account numbers, such as how much you basically your credit card numbers and different types of transaction holdings that you have. And the fourth one, messaging services such as WhatsApp, iMessages, they're all used as a combination of asymmetric and symmetric algorithms to secure privacy. So this is actually really cool because, as I mentioned, WhatsApp, they have, if you guys use the app, you might see that they might have that yellow text box which says this software uses secure encryption, and that basically ensures that WhatsApp actually made this publicly available, that they have a set of combinations of symmetric and asymmetric encryptions, which ensure that your messages are safe only between you and the person or people that you are messaging. An example of asymmetric encryption can be a virtual exam where the moderator can see each of the texts answered while others. Yeah, that's actually a really good application. I did not think of that, but yes, asymmetric encryption can be used in a lot of virtual testing atmospheres, especially they have upped their skills now, especially with a lot of the virtual testing. College Board actually used several different measures of complexity in order to ensure that their AP application is secure and prevents any types of cheating. So yeah, that is definitely a really good application today. All right, so another concept which we will be introducing, so since it's 4:41 my time, we have around like 20 minutes left. So I'll leave it up to you guys if you want to do the Kahoot or if you want to go on with the Python program. So Caesar cipher is basically a type of substitution cipher in which each letter in the encoded message is shifted a certain number of places down the alphabet. So Caesar cipher is one of the easiest or most simple ciphers that we know today. So you're not going to see, a government sector only use Caesar cipher to encrypt their messages, but the key point is that these companies use a mixture of several different ciphers in order to ensure that their algorithms are safe. So if you guys know any type of different ciphers, definitely put them in the chat or unmute, because there are definitely a lot. One of them is, I think it's called, I want to say the Elephant cipher, but I forgot the exact name. But it's basically what people used a long time ago in ancient civilizations where they use symbols which correspond to different letters of the alphabet, which basically are used to encrypt messages. So Caesar cipher is when you shift a certain number of letters to backwards in the alphabet. So for example, if I have the letter D and my key is 3, then that means I'm shifting the alphabet 3 spaces backwards. So I'll be going D, C, C, B, and A. So since D is the 4th letter of the alphabet and my key is 3, it would be basically 4 minus 3, which I'll go to the first letter of the alphabet, which translates to A. So an important part to note in Caesar cipher is when you see that key, it's a number that tells you how many spaces of the alphabet you have to shift backwards. And to decrypt, you basically have to take that specific letter and shift it forward. So here you can see that we have a specific key here, and the key is shifting at 3 spaces forward. So here, I believe, if I haven't forgotten, you're going to have to shift it back to its original encryption form. So if any of you guys want to give it a shot, definitely put the encrypted message in the chat. All right. I think I might hold off on the Kahoot and go straight to the Python program so we can get an introduction to that. But I can definitely link the Kahoot to you guys later in order to, if you want to test out any of your cybersecurity knowledge. I don't see anything in the chat, so just so you guys know, the letter was encryption. That was kind of easy, but it was just a short exercise to see if you got the concept of Caesar cipher. All right, so yeah, I'll hold off on the Kahoot for now. If we have time later, I will definitely link it in the chat, and we could go on to that. But the second part of the workshop was basically introducing the concept of Caesar cipher in Python. So the most important part of knowing about Caesar cipher is a mathematic formula. So as you can see, basically in the encryption format, you can see the function of where X is that specific character being encrypted. So whether it's A, B, C, D, whatever letter of that alphabet, key is that specific number of how many spaces we are shifting forward. That's that we have the addition sign. And then modulus 26, if you're unfamiliar with that Python function, modulus is basically it's basically a function of remainder division. So if I do 6 modulus 3, that would equal 0, because since 6 is divisible by 3, there's no remainder. But if I do, for example, 5 modulus 3, then that remainder would equal 2, because 5 divided by 3 is not divisible. So the reason we do modulus 26 is because since there's 26 letters in the alphabet, anytime we do the modulus 26, we get how many spaces that specific number has been shifted forward. And that leads to that encrypted format. All right, and the same thing with decryption. Whoops, did not mean for that to happen. The same thing with decryption, in which since we have that decrypted message, what we want to do is that we want to shift that specific number of spaces backwards. Yeah, exactly. Modulus is the remainder function. All right, so I'm assuming that most of you have either introduction to basic Python knowledge, which is completely okay, and that's exactly what you're going to need for this program. So just to reiterate a few important concepts of Python that you're going to need for this specific Caesar cipher program is, first of all, the user input. So as you know, in Python, in Python 3 in the installment, if you basically use the keyword input, then that allows the user to input a specific message that is saved in that specific variable. So if I type in message and I have to input, and the user prompts me to tell me something, and I type in hello, then that message will print out hello. Another basic math functions in Python, they're similar to our arithmetic functions, where the additional operator is where you add, subtraction is where you subtract, and the modulus returns the remainder of a division problem. Increments are when you want to increment or decrement a specific variable. You use the following syntax where you can do a plus equals 3 is equal that where you can do a plus equals 3, and that basically shows that every time that specific function or loop operates, you are going to be increasing a 3 times, or you can a by the value of 3, or you can simply do a is equal to a plus 3. Either one works, so that's like a short form of saying it. And finally, for loops are another important thing which you're going to see in this application. If you're not completely familiar with this, that it's okay. I'll let you know how we can work around that in the next slide. But for loops are basically used for iterating over a sequence. And for example, if I do 4x in range 6, that's going to print everything from 1 through 5, because that 6 is not included. All right, and 2 additional important functions that you're going to be using in this program are string functions. So the first one is finding the index of a character in a string. So the .find function returns the index of a particular character in the string. And if that specific character is not found in that string variable, then the function returns -1. So this basically is used if you want to find that specific indexing in that number. And note that in Python, indexing starts from 0. So if I have a character of 5 letters in hello, then H will start from 0 and then O will end in 4. And then finally, for adding the character of a string from its index, we use brackets, and we can enter that index of the string, and that returns a character and its location. So the first one is returning that number, and the second one is returning that specific character. And just a time check. All right, we have about 10 minutes left, so I will try to basically send you the information of how to do the program, and I'll let you basically do that on your own, and we can review the answers later. So for the project time, essentially what you're going to be doing is creating a Cipher program in which the user is allowed to enter a specific message and that key, and then you'll be printing them their encrypted message and their decrypted message. So we're going to be using Google Colab only because I tried to use Jupyter Notebook and my entire system crashed. So I will be sharing the link of the Google Colab in case you haven't worked with it before. It's like a Google Drive file, but in case, you can basically just insert code in it directly, and allows you to prompt that application. So I will be sharing you this link of Cypher project. All right. So this link, the document is in the chat. And essentially what you're going to be seeing is 2 different templates. So the fill in the blank template is if you have, beginners to almost no Python knowledge. So here I will basically be walking you through the program and the different functions, and then you will just have to be entering the information based upon the comments, and then you'll be able to finish that specific program. And then the template version is if you're familiar with the previous Python function that I mentioned before, and I will be just prompting you on the specific structure of the program, and then you'll be able to do it on yourself. So just to run an overview of how the program is supposed to look like, if I don't show all the information. All right, hopefully this works without me showing the answer. Okay. All right, hopefully you didn't see much of that, but all right, so if that doesn't work, but it's okay. So essentially the program offers is that where I entered a message, which was hello, and I entered the number for my key, which was 5. So essentially, as we learned in Cipher, if the key is 5, that means that I'm basically taking each letter of the alphabet and shifting it 5 letters forward. And in the decrypted message, I will take that specific message and shift it 5 shifts in the alphabet backwards. So that is what the overall program is supposed to go over. And just note that this program is more beginner based. So we excluded any symbols, numbers, or uppercase letters. And this only deals with lowercase letters in the alphabet. But in the end, if you want to add on and make it more advanced to the complexity system, you can definitely add in those symbols later. So I did share you the specific collaboratory link in case you want to get a head start on your project. Definitely I don't expect you to finish it in 8 minutes, but I will be going over the answer in about, I want to say like 3 to 5 minutes, just so we can wrap it up. But definitely feel free to reach out to me over Discord, which I'll share my username, or even on email. And if you want to learn anything more, and I will reach out to you on the Bitcoin answer as well. And in case, I should have shared this below, in case you don't know, in case your club is not working, which it does that, I can share this link to you just in case you are not able to access it. And it should be hopefully helpful. All right, there we go. So I will reconvene with you guys at around 1:56, and then I'll go over the answer and we can wrap it up. Okay, so just for time's sake, I will be going over the answer right now. And then definitely, if you don't want to look at the answer right now, don't worry about it, and I'll share it with you all later. So yeah, basically the main parts of the program that should have been, I want to say, a challenge. The main things that you should have remembered were the for loops and the string functions, which were important in order to ensure that decryption or encryption can work for the entire length of the string. The mathematical formula, which basically states how you can use that encryption formula or decryption formula with that specific modulus, and then how Caesar cipher works. So yep, I did share you guys with the whole Google Colab, so definitely reach out if you have any questions with those. And yeah, basically the overall, I guess, answer you can see on the right side here is where you can ask the user to prompt a specific input, and you can ask the key in order to, you can ask the user to input that key as well. And then the important part is that you want to save the entire alphabet's lowercase letters in the alphabet variable. And then I had encrypt and decrypt as two blank string variables. And then I ran two for loops, in which the first one, I basically ran the entire string that the user inputted in order to find that specific character, and then add that specific character to its index, and then decrypt that message. And then I did the reverse for the decryption message, in which you use that specific formula again by using the modulus 26, but you add or subtract that specific index, and then you should be able to get your encrypted and decrypted message. So yeah, that was the entirety of my workshop today. Thank you all for joining me today. I had a lot of fun talking to you guys. Great questions. I will look into them more, and glad you hopefully took something away. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. And thank you again, Citrahacks, for the opportunity. I can stay around like 2 minutes for any questions, but definitely feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Yep, I will share the Kahoot link with the slideshow presentation as well. Thank you. I can share my Discord username in the chat in case you want to reach out to me. Thank you, everybody. It was fun talking to you all too.
Okay, thank you, Shagun, for speaking to us about cybersecurity and giving us a little project to work on.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna end this meeting in like a minute because our next workshop is starting and we need to like process this recording.
Yep,
So
sounds
if
good.
you have any other questions, feel free to ask right now.
I think we're good.
Cool.